as every therapist knows, every therapist who is effective, eventually, sometimes only after years and years of applying learned and acquired knowledge, something else takes over. And they become simple. And when the client comes, they listen. Truly listen. And immediately a higher intelligence is operating. And that does the work. Occasionally words may come. They come out of that state of attention, attentive listening. So we are concerned with this activation of that higher intelligence here. That then, at first, it seems a passive thing that we are doing, just becoming aware of silence, paying attention to gaps. But as this becomes activated in you, you see that it begins to run your life. You live from there, not anymore from here. You can still use this up here, but you live from a wholeness. So the body is short-lived, and there is an aliveness there. It is an expression of the one consciousness appearing as a temporary form. And that in itself is beyond time. So to sense the body is an entry point into connecting with who you truly are. It's a return journey. We've had the journey outward for a long, long time into fragmentation, more and more, thought, noise, getting lost in the world, getting lost out there, losing yourself. The famous story of the prodigal son, the lost son, who leaves home with wealth, squanders all his wealth, and then loses himself out there. And then at some point, he begins to travel back home. So we are coming home, really, to ourselves, not the conditioned self. That which reveals itself as yourself, a simple sense of I amness, not the little meanness, a simple sense of beingness or presence, which is the thoughtless awareness. That has nothing to do with your story. The only relationship that it has with your life story and your personalized sense of identity is that through all the ups and downs and sufferings of your personalized sense of self, you've come to this point of realization. It's taken you here. In that sense, it all worked. Even though it might seem, from a conventional perspective, that your life hasn't worked. Very few lives actually seem to work truly, and there are very few people who have that feeling that my life actually worked out the way it was supposed to. It's all gone wonderfully. Many young people still have that idea, of course. And then things happen. Oh, as somebody said to my mother, she told a woman, very wealthy woman, not my mother, that woman, very wealthy woman but unhappy, said, I never imagined my life to have turned out that way. That was not what I imagined my life to be when I was young. And so she is very unhappy because of the gap between the early imagination of how her life would be that survived in her head, and life didn't conform to that early fantasy. But the early fantasy remains in the head and remains the criterion by which they judge their present life. And the present life doesn't conform to that fantasy, and so they're unhappy. I know a woman who is doing wonderful work. She's a teacher at school. She has incredible empathy with children. That is obviously her life mission. She has changed too many children's lives, in poor children, disadvantaged children, and wonderful work. But she has an idea in her head of how her life should have turned out, and now that idea says, I'm only a school teacher. This wasn't supposed to happen. I was going to be an actress. And there's great unhappiness because she can't fully see what she's doing, and she's looking still to fulfill the fantasy, to get rid of the unhappiness. It's a conceptualized way of living, of living with an image, an idealized me, an idealized story in the head. And one day she called me and said, I'm dreadfully depressed. I said, why? I applied to do a commercial on TV as a starting point to my acting career, and I even got invited to the, what? Yes. And she was turned down. My life has come to an end. That wasn't the story that was meant to happen. A conceptualized sense of self, and this is what almost everybody is burdened with in the head, a storyline of me. And life always throws something in there to make it go not quite right. Occasionally you can get control of it, and it's great when it works, you're getting what you want. That happens too. You wanted the big house and the big car and the career, and you made it. But in there again, there will be something that wasn't meant to happen. Oh, not like that. There was a film 1 or 2 years ago about a man who meets a beautiful woman who turns out to be the devil, and she grants him 6 or 7 or whatever wishes, and every wish is an idealized story of me, and each one turns out to be dreadful. At first he gets what he wants, but there's always something in there that makes it a failure. It's amazing. There's an amazing truth in there, because no matter what you do and where you go, you will encounter there's always a polarity to any situation. There isn't the one fulfilling, permanently fulfilling situation that you can find. Wherever any situation you go into, any relationship that you have, any person you meet, place you live, what job you get, recognition from the world telling you you're important, and you will always taste the other polarity. There is something in there that, no, that wasn't so. There's always the two whenever you look at any situation. The Buddha says wherever you go you will find some suffering. But only if you look to a situation to satisfy you. If you look to a relationship, to a situation to fulfill your sense of self, to fulfill you. If you look to a place, a situation, a person, a circumstance, a condition to fulfill you, to enhance and deepen your sense of who you are, sense of rootedness, of beingness, then it won't satisfy you. For a moment, a little while it can, and then something will come up. Oh, no. In the midst of that very desirable situation, there's always another side to it. You may get so famous that you can't go out in the street anymore. There's a riot whenever you walk and do your shopping. You lost all your freedom, and you thought, when I become a star, my life will be fulfilled. Can't even go out anymore. That wasn't supposed to happen. And then all these people who come and want something from you, want to be near you, are they really interested in me, you wonder? Or is it all false? And then you have to look hard to find anybody real. It's just one little example. And we know it with relationships. The ideal man and the ideal woman turns out not to be the ideal man or the ideal woman. So to have an expectation of the phenomenal world to do something for you, ultimately the expectation is that you will find yourself in or through a situation, a condition, a person, something out there that somehow that fulfillment, you will find your fulfillment yourself through that. And then life becomes a very frustrating thing, because the world cannot give you that. And if you don't know it, that any situation is short-lived, it comes to an end, or it no longer satisfies you because something else happens in it. Oh. When you don't know it, it's very frustrating, this life. Nothing ever seems to work out. It's not really meant to work out. It's very liberating to see that the story and that conceptualized sense of self, an image in the mind, that is never satisfying. It's always frustrating. So we step out of that. When you see it, you can allow the world to be the way it is without expecting something from it that it cannot give you, and that is yourself. And then, when the expectation is dropped, you become present suddenly to now, and then you can go into situations without the expectation that says, please fulfill me. Any situation, it could be a new relationship, a new place to live, a new job, a new this, a new that, please fulfill me. When you don't do that anymore, you accept the way it is right now with the polarity that it has. There's always up, down, good, bad. And you accept it for what it is. It's fine. And you move to a new city or a new big house. It's fine. I don't expect anything from that. I'm not looking for myself in that. Because something will come up to spoil your pleasure. And suddenly, the world becomes a satisfying place. Because you don't expect to be satisfied by it anymore. And suddenly, this moment becomes a satisfying place to be. Because the illusion that at some future point things are going to improve and I will find myself through this or that has gone away. So this is through seeing that through attaining in the future, you won't find yourself anywhere in the future, in any situation. And suddenly, what's the alternative? You look around. Where do I go from here? This looks all very depressing. That means anything I do is really pointless, isn't it? So what's the point in doing anything? That's the mind still trying to work something out. And suddenly you discover something long forgotten, and that is this moment, the now. Because until now, the now had been a stepping stone to the future, a means to an end, reduced to that. And if you look back, you will see that almost everything you did was a means to an end. Because you were hoping for the point in the future, the fulfilling point to be reached, to complete yourself and your story in the head. And now, the now suddenly is no longer a means to an end. You become aware of the now as it is. It's not in the service of a mentally projected future or a mentally projected self. The now is sufficient unto itself, and you discover how liberating it is to acknowledge the now. Miraculous, truly miraculous. Everything is. That little leaf moving in the wind. So, this is truly awakening. And you awaken into now. Now, in many cases, the now, as judged through external appearances, may not be such a wonderful, desirable place when you look at it through the mind that says, well, here I am stuck in this boring job, behind a desk, every day is the same, or here I am, not enough money, in this place that's not nice to live in. Here I am with a body that is not healthy. Here I am living with a wife or husband that's making me unhappy, stuck. But if I leave him or her, who knows, my situation might be even worse, so I'll better stick around